You asked and you shall receive. This is a Bonfire system tutorial. Learn to create an action game in Unreal Engine 5 at unfgames.com. A while ago, I asked to our YouTube community if there was a game mechanic you would like a tutorial on, and there were a lot of responses. One of them that caught my eye, and it should be a good starting point, is a bonfire system. So that's what I'm gonna do now. I'm guessing the bonfire they are referring to are the Dark Souls type of bonfire, and if you have never played Dark Souls, it goes something like this. And thanks, Shirako, for uploading a whole walkthrough. So it's something like this. You get near, you rest in this bonfire, and you have a menu where you can select a lot of options, right? But the primary mechanic of doing this, besides fast traveling, and we can cover fast traveling in another video, is that you are also replenishing your health, but at the cost of enemies maybe are respawning and stuff gets like a reset. So through the map, a lot of things could be resetted back to the original position when you use a bonfire. So that's pretty much it. As you saw here, and I think I just missed my mark. Here it is again. The bonfire complete system, it's actually pretty complex. You will see that there is a travel option. You can attune spells, organize your inventory, or just leave, right? So there is no way that in this video we will cover everything. So what I'm just going to cover is the logic and a little bit of the polishing of this mechanic. So here I have opened a completely blank project inside Unreal, and I'm using Unreal Engine 5.3. So let's begin. We need the bonfire. We need something to put on our map. So the first thing that we need to do is create a blueprint. Let's go to my content. Let's create a new folder. Let's call it bonfire mechanic. Inside of it, let's create a blueprint. It's going to be an actor, and let's call it bonfire. So far, so good. Let's go inside of it. Inside this bonfire, we need to show something that will tell my player that this is a bonfire. In the case of the game Dark Souls, they represent it as a sword. So we can use also a sword. Why not, right? So let me save my blueprint. And let's go to... no, it's not here. Let's go to the content drawer, add, and let's click on add quick-sell content. Here will be the bridge. This bridge, make sure that you are signed in, otherwise you won't be able to download anything. And you can search for sword. And there should be some type, here it is, sword and scabbard. Click on it, download it. I thought I already downloaded. It seems I didn't. So yeah, minimum quality is fine. We actually don't really need that many polygons. And let's add it to my project. Now I have my sword and the scabbard. And it's such good news that they are separate meshes. So yeah, now I have my sword. We can drag and drop it on top of my default scene root. And now let's close this content browser. Here is the sword. Let's, yeah, a value of 30 in the C axis is good. Let's save it. And let me create a map that it's actually not this big. So new level, basic level. And let's drag and drop my bonfire. Here it is. Now, it doesn't look very fancy, so let's just maybe 20, maybe a little more, 10, and let's just rotate it. Or maybe 0. 0 could be fine, actually. Yeah. 0. I believe 0 is fine. Yeah. Let's just tweak it very fast. There it is. You can copy these values if you like. Otherwise, won't matter. Now I have my sword. Let's save and compile. And here it is. And now I'm not liking the rotation, but let's just leave it like this, and then we can tweak it as we see fit. Okay, so now I need to know if my player is inside of this area that my bonfire is affecting. So inside my blueprint, I do need a trigger. What kind of trigger? Some type of sphere. So I need a sphere collision that will work as my trigger. Now, I don't necessarily want it to be a child of this sword, so let me just drag and drop it on top, so I'm detaching it from the sword. Now the sphere is not related to the movement of the sword. I'm going to press Ctrl C, because otherwise if I move the sword, my sphere will move with it, and I don't really want that. Now the sphere should be a little bit bigger. Let's increase the sphere radius in the details panel. Maybe 100, maybe more. That's not 100. We'll see. We will constantly be changing the values as we see fit. So let's save the bonfire. Here it is. Seems good enough, actually. Okay, so we need to test that we can know if my player is inside of this radius or not, right? So let's, here, you can either search the event. I just wanted to check the collisions that it was in overlap all dynamic. And now we can use the begin overlap, or you can here in the components panel, right click, add event, and begin overlap. Just to check, I'll print a message, it says hello, and I will press play here. Where's my sword? I'll enter its radius, it says hello, and whenever I do enter, it says hello. Perfect. Now, let's add a character that can interact with this bonfire, right? To add a character very easily, let's go to the content drawer, add feature or content pack, and select our third person. Let's add it to the project, and let's use it. So it's taking a while. Here it is, third person character. And the way that we are going to use our third person character, right now I'll just do it the quick and dirty way. I'll just drag and drop it. Here I'll click on auto possess player 0. Now when I press play, I'm possessing my character. Now that I have done this, I didn't just add the character because I wanted it to look good or anything. I actually wanted to see the scale of the sword and the scale of the actual radius. And I think it's a little bit small, so let's fix this. Let's go to the bonfire, and I really don't need these meshes or the bridge for now. Let's go to the viewport of the bonfire. I'll fix this rotation that I didn't really like. Something like that is good. This sphere, maybe it could be 200. Let's compile and save. And for sure I need to increase the scale of the sword. Otherwise it looks just like a dagger. So let's just multiply this by 2. Or you can just click on the on the lock, and then if you change one of the values, the three of them change. But I'm scaling my sphere collision, and I want to scale the sword. So again, click on the lock, twice the value. Now we will see if it's looking a little bit better. Well, if it is, maybe 3 times the value. Yeah, that's too much. That's definitely too much. 2 times the value. Good. Good for me. Something like this. Okay, and I will put my character outside the sphere, so I'm not colliding with it immediately. Now I see the sword, and whenever I enter the radius, my message, my hello message, pops up. Now that I have this simple interaction working, let's talk a little bit about the logic. By logic, I mean what will happen whenever I use this type of element inside the game. So what I'm gonna do is using this, no, not that one, this one, this image, I need to determine what's going to happen whenever I use the actual bonfire. So what's the first step? The first step is for my character to enter the interaction zone. And please don't make fun of my writing. I know it sucks. Now, the second step is actually interacting with my bonfire. So I'm thinking something along the lines of pressing a button to interact with the bonfire. The third step would be something like a transition animation or VFX or something like that. So I have it as transition to using it. The fourth action step, let's call it that, will be resetting the values. So here I put reset any value that needs resetting. This could be the health, this could be enemies walking around, this could be doors that are open, anything. The fifth step will be choosing an option from the menu, which in my case will be just only leave, because I really won't have time to create this whole system from the ground up. So after leaving, we need a transition to leave the bonfire, and that would be pretty much it. So it's important to know exactly what you're going to do, so you're not thinking on the fly and trying to make up solutions as the problems come along. It's a better idea to have a plan. This plan may change, yeah, but at least you will get better in predicting what stuff you need to make or to do or to create or to develop. So it's a good idea to always have this type of action steps that you can do. So whenever you start developing stuff, you are not going in circles. Now that I have my game plan ready, I can start developing stuff very quickly because everything's clear to me. Now, even though there are numbers besides the titles, you don't really need to do it sequentially. You can pick and choose whatever it's more important and then start filling the holes. For example, I won't be doing the transitions because that's like polishing. I will do that at the end. I want this to work first and then I can make it look good. So first, I do need a button to interact with it. That includes the little menu that appeared on the, like here, something like, oh, press F to use it, or press F to interact, right? I do need that. And also I need to give the ability to my character to press a button. Right. So the way that the Bonfire should work is that inside my blueprint, there should be a way of making it activate. So here in my event graph, what I'm gonna do is create a custom event. And I want this custom event to be called use bonfire. That's it. That's pretty much it. We just have a way of calling an event that's called use bonfire, and this will be triggered when my character press something. And my character should be able to press something only if it's inside this component, this sphere collision, right? So now let's open the character. This is my character, and I could duplicate it and start adding some custom code, but I'm gonna use the third person character. The third person character usually doesn't change a lot between versions, so it will be fine. I'm gonna right click it, edit third person character. Perfect. Now, the way that you can press stuff and make other things do something is through inputs. And if we see our character, here we're using enhanced input. I have already made a video on enhanced input, so I'll go over it very briefly, like only just how to do it, but not exactly. I won't go in detail why you should do it this way. So enhanced input deals with mapping context, and you could add like a new mapping here in this context, but it doesn't make sense that you can always use something, right? So what I'm gonna do is create a new mapping context. This one will be in my bonfire mechanic because it only deals with the bonfire. So I'm going to set the color so I can find my folder very easily. Here, I'll just, where is it? Input action. I do need the action itself. Input action. This will be use. It could be use bonfire. But maybe it's a good idea to make it a little bit more generic. Use interactive object or element. Something like this. I only want to know if it's pressed or not. So value type digital bool. Again, I go into more detail what's exactly this in my enhanced input tutorial. Okay, I can close this. Here I'll add again input mapping context. This will be input mapping context. It could be interactable stuff. It could be bonfire. I'll just put bonfire. Inside of it, mappings, I'm adding one. I'm choosing my use interactive object. And here I'll put my key, which can be E. And that's pretty much it. I'll close this context. Now, the same way that this character is adding a mapping context here in the begin play, I only want to add a mapping context when my character is near a bonfire. So you guessed it. Here in the component begin overlap, where I know my character is inside of it, what I'm going to check is if this actor is a character. So other actor, cast to character. Now with this in place, what I'm gonna do is add a mapping context. But if you see this, you will see that the context and the enhanced input local player subsystem is inside the controller, a player controller. So let's just copy and paste this. Here, this player controller, I won't be able to get it from this node because the target is a pawn. This is not a pawn, but this is a character is a pawn, and from this character I can also get controller. Yeah, it's the same node. So let's just connect it like this. I will put this cast to the player controller. The player controller has my enhanced input local system, and here I can add a mapping context. This mapping context will be the bonfire, and whenever, let me dock this to the sidebar. Whenever I leave this space, this sphere, I need to remove this mapping context. So again, I'm gonna make a little bit of space from the sphere, right click it, add event, end overlap. I will put my end overlap here. I'll just copy and paste this. Instead of hello, it will say bye. The character, I need to cast it from the actor that is leaving. Okay, so other actor means not this actor that has the component, but the other actor that is interacting with this sphere collision. So from this character, I also get the player controller, get the enhanced input local system, and instead of adding a mapping context, I'll remove a mapping context. Mapping context, bonfire. Yeah, and I will change this and let me save everything. Yeah, and let me save the map also. Yeah, save all. This is the map, bonfire mechanic. I'll create a folder called maps. And inside of it, I'll just call it test map. And it's a good idea to put an M in front of it. Okay, I have the map saved. Okay, so what I wanted to say is that I will change the name of this input action to use bonfire, because I'm not making something like a full type of system or complex system. I won't need to reuse this type of action. So it will be a better idea for me to be very specific about my naming. Okay, so use bonfire, bonfire, here's use bonfire. Perfect. Now my third person character, just like we have the actions of moving and looking and jumping, I do need an action for me to use a bonfire. Like this. And when it's triggered, something will happen. For now, I just want to know that this is working. Print string. Bonfire was used. Perfect. Let's compile. Let's save. And let's test it out. So I'm here. I'm pressing the key that I assigned, which is E. Nothing's happening. I get inside the bonfire. I press E. And now the bonfire was used multiple times. But if I go outside of it, I press E again and nothing is happening. Now, before continuing to the part of adding the UMG part, the text on the screen, it's a good idea to fix this interaction because I shouldn't be able to use the bonfire multiple times. Only once should be good. So the way I'm going to do it is, let's go to my mapping context, and here under the key, or yeah, it should be better even in the input action. So let's search for it here, browse, use bonfire, and in triggers, I will add one, and it will be the pressed one. Could be pressed, could be also released. In my case, I like to do stuff whenever I press the button. So pressed. This will make it so the trigger part of the input action only triggers when the button has been pressed. So only once, not while I'm holding the button, which is the default type of functionality. And you can see more about that in my tutorial about input enhanced input. So now if I pressed E, only the message only fires once. Well, once every time I press it, but I should remove the functionality of the E button whenever I press my bonfire. So maybe I can do that. Yeah, let's do that. Whenever I use the bonfire, I could just copy and paste this part. Remember end overlap? This is the part that is removing. Let's just get this part, copy and paste, Control C and Control B. And because I want to do this immediately, but I don't want to affect the normal flow of my print string and everything else that I'm going to add, I'll just put a select node. No, excuse me, a sequence node. So this will trigger first, and this will trigger second. Everything is going to run in the same frame, so you won't really notice the difference. If you put this on top or this on the bottom, doesn't matter for now. Okay, so now I should be only pressing once, and then if I press the bonfire again, I can't do it. Nice. And yeah, we can even remove the movement. Now that I think about it, yeah. Here, let's just copy and paste the, again, I'm going to dock this to the sidebar. Let's remove the default movement. That way we don't need to actually worry about my character moving while the menu is on top. So here it is. I press the bonfire and now I can't move my character at all. Really nice. Yeah, so that's the interaction part of the second step, pressing a button. The input interaction seems to be working well. But now we need to do the interaction between both of the blueprints. So when I press a button inside my character, I actually activate my bonfire. The way we're going to do this is by using simple blueprint communication. Now, it's more than likely that you will only be able to interact with one bonfire at a time. So I need to save a reference to the bonfire that I'm currently interacting with. The way I'm going to do this is by creating a variable in my third-person character. Here, variable. This will be bonfire reference. The type of variable will be a bonfire. And it will be an object reference because it's an object inside the level. Now, whenever I press the use bonfire, I want to use this reference. I'm gonna get it. And here I'm going to call the function or event called use bonfire. Just like that. Now when I press the button, I will be able to use a bonfire, but first I need to set up this reference because this reference, if I compile and I click on my bonfire reference and open my details panel, you will see that right now it's not pointing to anything. It's none. It's a null reference. So if I try to play the game and press E inside the bonfire, it won't say that I used the bonfire. And it will give me an error that I access a non type of property. So whenever it tried to read the value inside the variable bonfire ref, it didn't find anything. So this means that I need to set up this value. I need to fill it. And the way that I'm going to fill it is through the bonfire itself. Here in the bonfire, whenever I am inside the overlap sphere, what I'm gonna do is from this character, I'm going to cast to the third person character. And I delete something. Cast to third person character. This is a type of communication called direct communication because I'm referencing directly the type of character that I want to talk to. Now, a lot of people consider this bad, but depending on the type of game and depending on how you're using the mechanics, and I'm just double clicking the wire to create this reroute node, just FYI. Depending on how your game is structured, this is actually a good idea. If you have a character, like for example the main character, that you will always load into memory, then for sure, cast away. Because it's already loaded in memory. If it's something that you're not using very frequently, then you should think about it. Okay, so here I will set the bonfire reference. And which one will be the reference? Well, right now I'm inside the bonfire blueprint. So the reference will be self. And again, I'll just copy and paste this here. Whenever I'm out of my sphere collision, like in this case, end overlap sphere, I'm removing the mapping context. I also want to remove the value inside the variable. So here, instead of having this bonfire reference being set up to self, I'll just delete it. And this will assign it a non-value, a null value. So let's just save, compile. And here it seems that, oh, I messed up. Here I'm connecting to the player controller, and the player controller will never be a third person character, so I might as well fix it. Come on. Okay, I'll just delete the reroute nodes and reconnect it to the character and create my reroute nodes again. And I'll press Q so I can straighten the nodes. All right, let's compile, and now I don't have the error. Now here, use bonfire. I'll put a print string just to know that this is working. The bonfire is working. And let's compile, save, and test it. I'm inside, I'm outside. Inside, hello, press E, and it says bonfire was used, the bonfire is working. Now the bonfire is actually working. Just to finish the step 2, I will create the text very, very fast. So let's get on with it. Let's go to the content drawer. Let's create an input. No, excuse me, a user interface, a widget blueprint. This widget blueprint will be called widget blueprint bonfire key tooltip. Let's open it, and it's very simple, this one. I'll just going to go to the panel. I'm going to go to, where's my canvas panel? Drag and drop. Go to the text. I don't know if we already have a tutorial on UMG. In case we don't, I mean, I won't be able to cover it here, but this is how you create interfaces inside Unreal. Here I just drag and drop a text. I will anchor it to this part. So if my canvas needs to be resized, I make sure that it's always near the button. I'll reset these values. Position in X actually should be 0. Alignment should be 0.5. This alignment should be 1. Positioning Y should be minus 200. And the text will be press E to rest. Something like this. And I will make it size to content so my text aligns itself to the center. Now, usually you don't want the E to be here. You want that text to be a variable, and you can get the value of the key with the enhanced input. So if for whatever reason you need to change the actual value of the key, this text will be updated. But it will be like extra work, and that's not about this type of mechanic. So for now, press E to rest is more than enough. Let's compile and save it. We can close it, we can close this, and we can also close that. Let's go to the bonfire, and whenever my character is inside the bonfire, and let me make a space here. And again, I don't want to disturb the flow. I don't want to do stuff if maybe, oh, a character is not inside this this component. Or maybe I do want to check that. Yeah, actually I do want to check this. I only want my message to show if my character is using it. So here, actually, yeah, at the end, yeah, let's add it at the end. I was gonna add another sequence node. Here, let's create a widget. Now, every bonfire will or should probably have their own text. So what I'm going to do is, here in the begin play, I'm going to create a widget. This widget will be called widget blueprint bonfire key tool, and I'm going to save a variable to this. This will be my text reference. And what I would probably do in a bigger game is create stuff only when I need it. So maybe here I will create stuff, validate if this is already created, and reuse it. In this case, I'm going to create one for each bonfire because that's the worst case scenario. And in our case, maybe there will be like, what, 20 bonfires inside the map. It will really not affect our performance at all. So whenever you create a bonfire, or you just drag and drop the bonfire and play the game, then a text will be created. Now, this doesn't mean that you will see the text. The way that we can make the text appear is get our text reference and add it to the viewport, just like this. And whenever we remove my player from this bonfire, or at least the collision, we will, I'm copy and pasting the text, remove from parent. This remove it from our player's view. Now, whenever we use the bonfire, let's copy and paste this, use the bonfire, we should also remove the text. So now let's test it. Let's play around. I'm inside, press E to rest, I'm outside, that gets removed. I'm inside, I press E, and it also gets removed. So now it works correctly. Let's check our action plan. And here, I have the press button to interact working, enter interaction zone working. The transition, I won't do it. I don't have the animation, and I don't have any VFX that I can use immediately. So let's just skip it for now. Reset any value that needs resetting. This I can do. Choose an option. We can create a menu. And the transition from bonfire to gameplay also. So it will be a good idea to have the flow of my bonfire working before I start resetting stuff. So I need to make the menu so I can leave the bonfire. So let's do that. Let's go here. And now my bonfire, let's open it. I'm going to select it and press Ctrl E. Oh, I already have it, so that's why it's not opening. So inside the bonfire, here is using the bonfire. Whenever I interact with it, I not only want to make the text that I have already disappear, but I want to add new text. So in this case, what I'm going to do is add a widget. So I will create widget. I don't have any menu yet, so let's create one. We already know how to do this. Again, user interface, widget blueprint, user widget. This will be my widget blueprint bonfire menu. Let's open it. Let's again add a canvas panel. I will add a button. Inside my button, there will be a text. These buttons should cover all the text, so let's click on size to content. This text should say leave. And this should be inside a panel. And I will use a panel called horizontal box. So click on the button, right click on it, wrap with, and wrap it with a vertical box. This vertical box, let's select it on my hierarchy. Right now it's saying size to content. Let's put it as false, so we have control over the size of our panel. I'm doing it this way because if later on I add a button on top of it, you will see that it gets organized vertically. And it's super easy to work with. So let me delete the other button. This menu, I want it to be anchored to this side, so anchor, and I'll select the central part of the screen. Again, I'm going to reset the position X and Y. Y will be in alignment 0.5 and X is fine in 0. Let's position the X maybe 100. Yeah, 150 should be very nice. Now we have our button. Let's save, compile. Let's go to the bonfire. Here in construct that we created by using the node create widget, this one. Let's select our new UMG class, bonfire menu. I need to make it show up in my screen, so let's use the add to viewport. Now let's compile and save, and let's test it. Let's go back to the map, play. I'm in the bonfire, press E to rest. There is my button, but I can't see my mouse. So the way I'm gonna make it appear, here in the bonfire, I need to change the way I control my game. So get player controller, and from here, set input mode to UI only. What is the widget that I want to focus is the button inside my menu. This one. This is what I want to focus. You will see why. So from here, it's going to be a good idea to have a variable that holds this menu. So I'm going to call it, and we can break the link and connect it like this. This will be called, I'm pressing F2 there, menu ref. Could be bonfire menu ref also. Yeah, should be better. Bonfire menu ref. And instead of text, tooltip text is a good idea for your variables to have names that are very descriptive on what they exactly are doing. With this, I can get the bonfire menu ref, and from inside it, I can get the button. The button here is called button 01, could be button leaf. Or if you have worked in software, you probably have seen btn leaf. And make sure that this is a variable so we can change stuff. Although we won't in this video, but just in case, just leave it that way. That's very useful when you're creating and destroying buttons on the fly. Okay, Bonfire menu. We're again in the blueprint Bonfire. From the Bonfire menu reference, let's get that button, get button leaf, and this is the widget that I want to focus. Now, this will make it so I can interact with the menu, but I want to see what my cursor is doing. So from the player controller, let's set, was it cursor? No. Was it? Yeah, it was set cursor, and it's set show mouse cursor. This will be set to true. So again, the code is like this. You already had this part. Now we are adding this new section. We're making our menu appear, and we're making it so we can control menus very easily with the UI only mode and making our mouse appear. So this is how it will be shown to the player. Press E to rest. Now I see my mouse, I see the leaf, and I can select the button. But what is very useful now that we have focused our button is that I can also press enter. And it's because it's focused, then my keyboard inputs, if I had more buttons, it would have worked even better. But if I use the keyboard inputs like arrows and enter, then my button works. So let's make sure that I'm saving everything just in case my Unreal crashes. So yeah, that's how we can make the menu appear and control it. Now that we can enter the Bonfire menu, we should be able to get out of it. With this button, there is the leaf type of button. Now, I really don't want my Bonfire to be depending on this same exact menu. So what I want to do inside this widget is send a generic message that the leaf button has been pressed. So that's another way of communicating between blueprints. This is a widget type of blueprint, a UI, and an actor blueprint. Here you can see parent class actor. So the way that they will communicate will be through a dispatcher. And a dispatcher is just like a message that my menu will send, and that really any class can try to catch that message. So how do we create one? Again, this type of communication, I also cover it in our blueprint communication tutorial. There I go more in depth and with more analogies, so it's easier to understand. Here, we just want our menu to drop a message. So let's create an event dispatcher. This will be called on leaf button rest. That's it. Let's go back to the designer. Let's click on my button. And here, I'm going to search for the on-click event. Here, click on the plus, on-click event, and whenever I click, I'm going to call this event dispatcher. Cool. That's it. That's the only thing that I want to do with this Bonfire menu. Let's compile and save it, and now we can close it. You will see that that Bonfire didn't have a reference, like in the case of my third-person character. It didn't have a reference where it can send the message. Here, I have the Bonfire reference and it's sending a use Bonfire message. It's because the dispatchers works the other way around. It makes it so the blueprint that it's receiving the message, in this case my Bonfire, is the one that should have the reference to the one that is sending the message. And it so happens that whenever I use the bonfire, I create the widget, the menu, and I also get the message to that same exact menu. So, well, I do need to make it so I'm listening to the message that my menu can tell me. So the way that we're going to do this is very simple, actually. For clarity's sake, I'm going to create a sequence node here. Break the link. You can also use Alt and it will break it. This input mode stuff should go here first. Come on. And this will be in the bottom. This way. Oh, this is going to fail for sure because, and this is very important with when working with blueprints, is that because I'm creating this here second, this bonfire menu reference will be null. So let's just revert it. I'll pause the video and revert what I just did. I wasn't thinking clearly. Forgot. Okay, now I just have it as it was. So with this bonfire menu reference, let's just do it at the end. Get the bonfire menu reference and type bind. Bind. Let's search for the one that we created. This is it. Bind event on leave button press. This is the dispatcher that we created. And this will be called whenever inside my menu the leave button is pressed. We need to bind an event. Two ways of doing this. We can either create our custom event. I don't know, call it leave button pressed and just connect it like this. This works. Also, you can do it like this. Create event and you select the function. Here it should be leave button pressed, or you can create a matching event and it's even easier, right? So I'm going to delete this part. Here it will be the leave button pressed. And my leave button pressed needs to get rid of this menu. So again, I'll need my reference to the menu. I'll remove it. Remove from parent. And you will see that it gets easier to remember all the nodes that I'm using because they constantly get used. Let's remove it from the parent and let's make our variable empty. So I'll drag and drop this, I'll set, and right now it's emptying the value of this variable. Because whenever we use the bonfire again, we're going to create and assign it again. Yeah, so no, don't worry about it. Okay, so that's the menu part. But we again need to change the input mode. So we do need to get the player controller again. Let's copy and paste that. This will be set input mode game only. And now, what else do I need to do? Show mouse cursor. Let's just copy and paste this. This will be false. And remember that here we are losing our mapping context. yeah, we should add it again, right? So to add it again, we can either get a reference to my third person character or just get rid of this part. Now, I'm just going to press Alt and click, so I'm not getting rid of the mapping context. And why am I doing this? Because here, whenever we set the input mode to UI only, this also should get rid of any input that goes to my player. And when it goes back to input mode game only again, then it should return to normal. So let's compile and save, and let's see if it's working. I'm here, I'll press E, it goes to input mode UI only. You will see that I'm pressing the movement keys, nothing is happening. I will press leave, and I will regain control of my character. Yeah, so we really didn't need to remove the mapping, but I wanted to remove the mapping just so I can show you a new way using the enhanced input to remove inputs depending on the context that you are. So now we are working correctly, and we could even make our input appear again, but I think it's working correctly. Come on. But yeah, it's bugging me that whenever I'm here and this gets here again, the message should appear that you can use this, and I should be able to use exactly that. So I'm going to fix it by the easiest way possible, just by disabling and re-enabling the collision of the sphere. So whenever I use the bonfire, after doing everything here, this sphere, I'm going to put set collision enable no collision. I'm gonna copy this, and whenever I end my bonfire usage, at the end of the leave button pressed, I'm going to set the collision back to query only. We can know which collision it's using if I click on the sphere and I go to the details panel, search for the collisions. Right now it's in overlap all dynamic, and here object collision enabled, is query only. So that's the one that I need. So whenever we finish using the menu, we are going to enable the collision that we disabled before. So let's press play, and let's see if it's working. Press E, I'm going to leave, and now it gives me the choice to press E again because it's like it has collided again with my sphere. Pretty nice. So that's done. The choose an option and leave. Precision again, I'm not gonna do it. The only thing missing is the reset any value that needs resetting. And this is kind of the part that depends a lot on the type of game that you are using, or that you're making, excuse me. Why? Because depending on the game, you will need to reset enemies, you will need to reset items, you will need to reset a lot of stuff. So there's no way I can tell you how to reset stuff. Okay? So what I can tell you is how to make a system generic enough so it fits any type of purposes, or most of the purposes. How are we going to do that? Well, whenever we're talking about changing stuff of the specifically state of the game, like the number of enemies that currently is in the map, the number of health that my character may have, etc., then if we follow the philosophy behind the gameplay framework inside Unreal, we are talking about a class that can handle the state of the game. If you have won, if you have lost, if the game is in progress, etc. This class is called game mode, and that's what we're going to change. So let's create our own game mode here. And usually I will be creating a folder called core, and inside of it will be a folder called framework. I'll just create it here. Inside my framework, I'll get a blueprint class. I'll select a game mode base, and this will be my game mode, and will be my this should be the name of the type of game. I'll just put it Bonfire game. A game mode specifies the rules of the game also. And if you have not seen too much information about the framework, it's a good idea to research and read on it. There's a lot of information on the documentation of Unreal, and I'm also making a tutorial which right now is not published, but maybe when you're watching this video it will, so I'll add a link to it. So okay, here in the Bonfire game, let's open it. Inside of it will be the rules of what classes my game will use. In my case, I'm going to use the default pawn. I'm going to change it. I'm changing it to the blueprint third person character. Perfect. Let's save. And now I can remove this character, because remember I said that I was doing it the fast and dirty way. Yeah. Let's just remove it and define a place where my character will spawn. Because if I press play, my character will spawn in the air, right? So let's get my place actors and player start. And if I press play, my character starts from here, but it's not the correct character. It's because this level is not using my game mode. I can check it by clicking here on the blueprint button, game mode. This is the project overall game mode. And this is the world override, because different worlds can have different game modes. I want this game mode to be used in any level, so I'll just put it here. If this is not your case, then just set a world override. So project settings, select a game mode class, and here is my game mode Bonfire game. Now I press play, and here I spawn where I told it to, and I can get near my bonfire. Very nice. Now, let's go back to my game mode. And here inside my game mode, what I'm going to have is a custom event. This custom event will be called Bonfire Reset. And I will do the same type of communication that my menu used, a dispatcher. And when the Bonfire Reset is called, I will dispatch a message called on bonfire used. I'm gonna call it whenever I call the Bonfire Reset. Let's compile and save. And usually you want to save and then compile, because if for whatever reason your game crashes or your editor crashes, then at least you're safe. So I'm very used to saying compile and save, but it usually is save and compile. Okay, so back to it. We call the Bonfire Reset, and then we call a dispatcher here. Pretty nice. Let's save this, and we can close the game mode, because the game mode shouldn't really be the one that actually resets stuff. I mean, it's the one that gives the order to reset stuff, but it shouldn't be dealing with the specificity of, oh, resetting means to bring the health of my character back to 100. Yeah, the game mode shouldn't do that. The character should be in charge of itself. So this way my game mode is just sending the message. Okay, so let's call this, and it will be a good idea to add a print string just so we know that it's happening. And it will say game mode orders you to reset. And this will be in another color just so we can spot it very quickly. Maybe a green type of color. Perfect. Let's compile, save it, and let's go back to the bonfire. Because whenever I use it, I want my game mode to give that alert, give that message to any other classes that are listening to it. So yeah, now at the end of this chain, we can get the game mode, and you can get the game mode from almost any class. But we want to know exactly what type of game mode is it, so we need to cast. And it will be casted to game mode bonfire game. This bonfire game will be called the bonfire reset. So through this reference to my game mode that I'm casting to the bonfire game, I'm finally able to get the bonfire reset node, and inside of it here it will get the message and it will print something on my screen. So let's save everything, play, go inside this, game mode orders you to reset, and we can leave and we can do it again, and the game mode orders you to reset. Now, why have I done it this way? Because if my different objects inside the map or enemies need to do something different when the game resets, then they themselves can handle it. So I will give you a couple of examples, just so you know how to make this system work whenever you have implemented it. Let's say that this bonfire resets the health of my character. So I'll just create the custom event. This will be called, I don't know, refill health. And I will put a message here. Health has been refilled. I mean, you usually create a variable. This variable will be maybe a float or an integer. This will be called health. You will get a max health. And the refill health is basically health is equal to the max health. Something like this, right? I mean, I'm really not gonna worry about this because different games like will base, oh, my health will be 1 if I'm full health, or maybe it's 100. I mean, really doesn't matter. What I want is my game mode to call this refill health whenever my bonfire is used. So my game mode is giving this message, but only the classes that are waiting for it or trying to listen in for it, only those are the classes that will be able to use this message. So I need to make this third person character a class that can use that message. So, do I have a begin play here? Yes, I have. So I'm gonna make a sequence here because I'm kind of patching it in. I'm holding control and dragging and dropping. Okay, so I need to get the game mode. I need to cast it. and I need to know, I need to bind. Let me finish that sentence. I need to know when the message has been dispatched. So I need to bind an event to that message. So let's type bind, and there should be a bind event on Bonfire used. Here I will create an event, and the event that I'm going to bind is the, where is it? Refill health. Now, you can also create a new custom event, depends on if you need to do more things in the case of a bonfire, right? You can just create a custom event. This will be bonfire. Oh, come on. This is bonfire was used. Something like this. And inside bonfire was used, here I will call the refill health and anything else that I need to call whenever my bonfire was used. And here I can select, instead of refill health, bonfire was used. Something like that. Or reset by bonfire, whatever makes sense to you. Now, this is something that you will need to do in any object that needs to be reset. And inside the event that you're binding the on bonfire used, then inside that event, you will need to add the code for maybe resetting the location, resetting the health, resetting whatever value that you need. So if we test it, let's press play, and hopefully it doesn't crash. There we go. Let's go to the bonfire. I will press E, and the message of refilling the health has been refilled, appears. So it is refilling my health. And any object that you want to do this kind of stuff, you can do it. Another example, let's say I want to reset the position of my of an object. Like I'll create a blueprint class, an actor. This will be a random moving object. I'm dragging and dropping it to the map. I'm going to go inside that object. I can right click and edit. And here, let's just add a cube. I don't know, something. And in the event graph, in the tick, set location, set actor location. Where is it? Add actor local offset or world offset. It will be best. Add actor world offset. And I want to add maybe 1 in X. This will make it so whenever my game is playing, and let me save everything with Ctrl-Shift-S, my box is moving in the X-axis. Okay, so let's reset the position here in the begin play. Again, the same steps. Get game mode, cast it, bind the event, create an event. This will be on bonfire reset. And on bonfire reset, what it will do is set the position, set actor location to the start location. How do we know the start location? Well, we need to save it to a variable. So here in the begin play, I'm going to create a vector variable. I'm doing it super fast. Start in location. Dragging with Alt. And this starting location will be my current actor location. So here, get actor location. So here I'm saving the start location, and whenever whenever the bonfire is used, then I will set my actor location to the starting location. Save and compile. Let's test if it's working. It's moving around. I'm not using the bonfire. I'm not using it. I will use it now. It gets reset. I will leave. And again, it gets reset when the bonfire is used. And that is how we can reset stuff and also make stuff pause. Because remember, if you're in a bonfire, the enemies shouldn't be able to attack you. In the case of AI, you should be able to use like stop logic or something like that. In the case of stuff that is moving around, you should probably want to have this in a custom event. So you are only using it when the bonfire is not active, and you will need to keep track on that if the bonfire is active or not. But yeah, that's how you do it. The last caveat I want to tell you is that because every object that wants to reset itself needs a reference to the game mode, be very careful on the stuff that you have inside the game mode, inside the blueprint of the game mode. Anything that can be a reference to some other asset will make it so it gets loaded inside the game. And this part is maybe more for the advanced developers, but usually the game mode should be very clean unless you are just doing stuff randomly. So it really shouldn't be an issue, and whenever it becomes an issue for you, it will become a very good learning experience at the same time. It's bound to happen. It's just a case of how grave will be the result, but that's just the warning that I wanted to give. Like, this really isn't bad. It's not bad programming. I'm not taking shortcuts. This is how you can actually see stuff in studios. Because the game mode is something that will get loaded eventually. It will always be on the memory, so that's why casting to the game mode is not bad. But you need to make your game mode very, very clean. Not just add any reference because you want it. So yeah, that's the final words on this. I'm hopeful that this was very useful, and the stuff that the bonfire will reset will really depend on you. And just so I get a better thumbnail, I'm gonna make it so this looks a little bit better. The fire, I'm gonna get it from the here at feature content pack. There should be my content, starter content, and inside of it there should be a particle for fire. So let's wait a little bit for it. Here in there is the starter content. Oh, come on, I can get through this tutorial. Let's go. Let's go to the bonfire. Let's select our particle. Here it is. Explosion? No, fire. Let's just drag and drop it on top of the default scene root. Now we can close the content browser. Let's go to the viewport. Now we have some fire. And we should have a little bit of a mound of dirt. Yeah, now it's looking good. Yeah, let's go back to the bridge. Add Quixel content. This is the bridge. I already saved a little bit of. Come on, let me enter my favorites. I have this mossy mound that I already downloaded. Gonna add it. There are more mounds here. I believe these ones are better, but come on. The mound. I also want, again, maybe this is cool. Ram school. Oh, hey, it's a me. I'll add it. Did I add it? Here it is. And again, I'm going to go to the favorites. Animal leg bone. Already downloaded it. And let's add it. Can I add it? Oh, I didn't download it. Should be fast. And click on add. Add. Here it is. Perfect. Now we can go here. We can start adding my mossy mound. Let's go to the default scene root. And I, for some reason, choose the fire. Let's detach. That mound. Yeah, I mean, it's good. Let's add some bones. The ram skull. Defaults in root. I mean, it's fine if this skull is bounded to the mound because, I mean, if the mound for whatever reason moves, then it's fine if the skull moves with it. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it like that. It's a good idea to disable the snapping so we can get a little better results. And it's just a matter of letting your imagination fly. And finally, I just need some bones. 2 bones should be more than enough. I'm gonna scale this. No, not like that. Like this. And let's just move it around. I'm gonna use the word gizmo, so it's easier for me. And the other bone, where is it? I'm gonna rotate it this way. Move it here. Rotate it that way. And maybe sticking out. No, doesn't look that good. Ah, like this. Now it's looking better. Let's save, compile. And yeah, just do whatever you think looks good. Actually, you don't need to follow me. But now it's even better. Yeah, pretty cool, right? Now, it may not look like much, right? But if we were to use it with a marketplace asset, for example, one that was free a few months ago, which is the modular Lost Ruin kit, let me add it to my project. I'm gonna put show all projects and search my Bonfire. Select my version 5.2 and I will add it to my project. You will see that, let's go to the modular Lost, go to the maps and go to the showcase, could be sample map, Lumen. Now with this map open, what we can do is, let's go back to our Bonfire and start placing it around. You will see that it actually doesn't, I mean, it doesn't fit perfectly, but it's not a complete mismatch. That's what I wanted to say. So we can start placing a lot of them in this map and start playing around, right? If I play from here, here is my character. And because it's using the same game mode, we can still use our Bonfire. And it will work. Now, there are a lot of messages. And it would be a good idea to remove them, right? But having this print string helps you understand what's the logic behind the nodes. I mean, you can also use like select, press the C key, and that's C from comment, and you can type some comments. But this is also useful to have, right? And we can remove them by just clicking here, and they won't print on the screen, but they only will print to the log, which is this one, this log. Bye. Or what we can do if we don't want to change anything is go to file not, edit, editor preferences, and let's search for disable, or just press this. Click on allow explicit impure node disabling, and now my blueprint nodes will have the ability to be disabled by right-clicking and disable, do not compile, or alt delete. This will make it so this node will not run, and if I need it back, I can enable compile, development only if we only wanted to see them in the editor, or always compile if we always want to see them. For print string, the default is development only, but in my case, I'm going to disable all my print strings. And because I want to find it, what I can do is right click and find references. This will put all the reference values here, disable, double click, it will jump to the other node, disable. And if I want to see all the print strings in all my blueprints, I can click in these binoculars. Here's a class that we did not create, so I'm going to skip it. Datasmith content, skip it. Engine, skip it. Engine again, skip it. Game, bonfire mechanic. These are the ones that I already disabled, but here is the third person. Alt delete. Here again, alt delete. And in the game mode, alt delete again. And now let's save everything. Let's go back to my map. I'm gonna press play from here. And whenever I use my, oh, it's super slow. I'll just open my normal map to see what's happening, because this is getting too heavy for me to record. Let's open recent level test map. And let's not save anything. Okay, here we have it. Now we don't have any type of message on the screen. Hopefully you learned a lot in this tutorial, and let me know if you want me to expand on this type of system, or if you want me to do other type of mechanics. Yeah, other type of mechanics can also be fun. Having said this, take care and have fun.